Okay, so it's time for another Manic Monday episode, and I'm gonna be bringing it to you in black and white. So here we go. I am going to take a break in my storyline with the relationships, and I'm gonna start on my stormy friendships. So I'm gonna do like a little hopping back and forth. I thought about creating a timeline so you guys can keep up. I don't know about that yet, but it's just an idea right now in the factory. So, anyways, fifth grade, I meet this girl and we become best friends. Her dad knows my grandmother because he does like work for you know, um, like patios and he builds things and he's a handyman. So he was well known around the neighborhood. Um, so me and her grew really close because we had the same class together, and this was fifth grade. So I think I was around 9 or 10 at this time because isn't that the fifth grade level age? But anyways, so I'm like 9 or 10 years old. Um, and in class we used to do these like segments, you know, when the giraffe would come to town, he would tell you like not to do drugs. There was the dare program we used to do, and then there was like a small lesson plan that this company or this organization called Rain used to give us, just to make sure we're aware of like good touch, bad touch, and like to give us the definitions of like sexual assault and rape and things like that. So I don't remember what order these events happened in our friendship, so I'm just gonna go over them as I remember them. Anyways, so I was in class one day during this sexual assault lesson plan, and our teachers are asking us questions like, do you know the definition of good touch, bad touch? Has this ever happened to you? If it has, tell us now. You can share. It's not your fault. You were too young, or you just don't know. You didn't know if it was right or wrong, but now you know that it's wrong. You can tell us, if it happened to you, or if someone did this to you, or someone so we can step in and help. So I'm going over the definitions, and I'm like, wait, this has happened to me before. So now my mind is like unlocking memories that I probably like suppressed in fifth grade. So now they're coming to me in fifth grade during the class. So I raise my hand and I share, like, you know what? Actually, yeah, this has happened to me, teacher. And I think it was only like two of us in the class that ended up sharing. So like everybody was like shocked. And I think they were really shocked that I shared because I, like, on the outside looking in, my grandmother was raising me at this time. So I'm living with my grandmother. And, she always kept us neat, clean together. She was always around. So people in my class were like, wait, what? No way. Because they thought like there was nothing bad could ever happen to me. I don't know how kids think. I kind of know how they think, but kids think like, oh, there's must be perfect in that household or whatever. So I share like, yeah, this guy who turns out to be my grandmother's godson used to be in charge of babysitting us. So one night, before he comes over, my grandfather makes a comment about his alcohol cabinet. For the past like couple of weeks, my grandfather has been noticing that all of his alcohol is being drunken and then refilled with water. He goes to pour himself a drink before he goes to work one day, and he notices that the taste is off. So instantly, we're the kids in the house. So he's like, who touched my alcohol? We don't know. Why is it filled with water? He thinks that's something that we would do, as kids, fill up with water to trick them. But we were young kids at this time. I was about 6 or 7. My brother was probably like 8 or 9, 7 or 8 or 9. We are only a year apart. So we were young kids, little kids. We weren't messing with alcohol. We didn't even know how to open it. And he kept it in a china cabinet. So it was like completely out of reach. And our babysitters wouldn't go for that either. So he gets yelling at us, and my grandmother stops him like, it can't be them. So they head off to work. They call him over to babysit us. I'm paying attention to him now. I don't know why I call it like mind recording. Like my mind just started recording this specific day for some reason. And when he came over, I noticed that the first thing he did after they left was go to the alcohol cabinet. And I'm thinking like, it's him. So I'm like, prepared to tell on him because I'm not going to keep getting in trouble for something that this grown man is coming over here and doing. So the night goes on. I didn't know at this time what a drunk adult looked like or what that was. I had no conception of that. So like, cause I'm a kid. I don't know what alcohol does to adults. I don't even know what alcohol is. So he's drunk by this time. I think it was like 10 or 11 at night. Our bedtime was at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So it was unusual for him to even have us up this late. I'm sorry if I go really slow on this part, y'all, but I'm trying my best to share. Okay, so it's about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and he takes out these magazines that he brought over with him. He gives my brother one, he gives me one. We look at magazines all the time. My grandmother orders, or she used to order Jet, Essence. My grandfather would order magazines, like, a couple men's magazines, like for hairstyling and like dress, like suits and dress shoes. My grandmother, the same thing. Wigs, lotion, like we had magazines for everything. These magazines, I quickly learned as we started to flip, were perverse. Now, we're kids, so I'm not registering the images. I can't tell you what I saw. I just knew that we weren't supposed to be looking at these magazines. And he starts like telling us to come closer to him. I think at one point in the night, he asked me to sit on his lap. He was sitting in a chair. He had me and my brother on the floor in front of him, flipping through the magazines, just like super weird. And then even at one point in the night, he gave both of us a sip of his drink, whatever mixed drink he had made out of my grandpa's cabinet. And the shit was nasty. And I remember looking at my brother like, what did we just drink? You know what I'm saying? And we both were like, and then he tried to get us to drink more. And we were like, no, that was disgusting and we'll pass. So now it's time for us to go to bed and put our pajamas on. We get dressed in 2 different rooms because he's a male, I'm a female. I am putting my nightgown on and my door creaks open. So I stop, I freeze, and it closed back. So I'm like, well, maybe it was an accident. Not thinking too much of it, because we all, we're all in the same house and we don't shout like done when we're done getting dressed. We just, figure it out. So the door opens again, and this time it opens up wider and I see his face in the creak of the door. Now there's chills running up my spine. I only had I was only wearing a gown for pajamas. So once the gown fell, at the same time he's opening the door, I hurry up and ran to the bed. Then I'm calling for my brother at this point. So now my brother's like, I'm coming. I'm just finishing my pajamas. He's just standing there in the doorway, like creepily staring at me. And then he closed the door back. So my brother's done. We were sleeping in the bed together because we were still like young, and my grandmother felt like, we didn't need to have separate rooms because we were still pretty young. And me and my big brother are super close. So, we laid down, me and my brother, and I'm about to tell him like, yo, I think there's something wrong with the babysitter. He was like watching me get dressed. And before I can even open my mouth, he comes back, opens the door, and says he's going to lay down with us. So he lays in between me and my brother. Now, my brother used to sleep facing the wall on the inside of the bed, and I would sleep on the outside of the bed, and I would face the opposite way. We sleep on our sides. So, my brother's facing his way to go to sleep, and I'm facing my way to go to sleep. And then I can hear him like breathing like into my ear. So at this point, I'm like, okay, he's got to be like right behind me, and he's scooting. And I can feel him, like the bed moving from him, like scooting closer to me. And now I can smell his breath. And I know it was terrible, but I didn't know it was alcohol that I was smelling. So he starts whispering, "Can I put my arm around you? Can I go in your pants? Can I touch you? Is it okay?" Now, this man is like 24, 25 at this time. And I'm like a 6, 7 year old, maybe younger. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to like put the details together. So that happens. And it was such a painful experience that I dissociated from it. So I still have problems like talking about it because I remember a lot, but it's hard for me to spit it out. So he basically molested me. And I believe he tried to put his tip in, but I was screaming hysterically. Like he had his hand wrapped around my mouth at one point, because I was being so loud, like intentionally, because I wanted my neighbors to come knock. I wanted my brother to wake up. Like I just wanted somebody to intervene and get this grown ass man off of me. But nothing came of it. I ended up screaming into his hand, and when he tried to insert, it was super painful, and it made me scream louder and whatever and whatnot. So he like stopped. And then I can't really too much remember what happened afterwards. I just know that I tried to dial the police after he got out of the bed and went downstairs in his basement, which is usually where he would stay when we would sleep. I couldn't type the numbers in the phone right because I was so disturbed and upset. Like I didn't realize what just happened to me. I thought the police wouldn't believe me. And then I remember him saying before he left the bed, like, "If you ever say anything, I'll kill you. I'll kill your brother. I'll kill your family, you stupid little bitch." I was petrified, to be honest. And then he had access to us like anytime. So I had no reason not to believe that he would not hurt me or my brother or my family. So I kept it to myself. I hung up the phone. I went downstairs to see if he was still at the house. So I'm on the steps and he sees me and he goes, "Oh, you want more?" Like this guy is so fucking sick. They should have buried him under the fucking jail. But I didn't say anything when it happened at 7 years old. So even after he molested and partially raped me, he was still allowed to babysit us. And I don't know how many other kids. And then he also was dating someone with kids. So that's something that follows me. Just like wonder if I was the only one. I hope I was the only one, to be honest, because I would never wish that on any other kid. So fast forward to 5th grade, I finally speak about it. And everyone was like super shocked, including my best friend, because I never told her either. So she was trying to be a good friend. She goes home and she tells her dad what I shared with the class. So, her dad was like super moved, super upset about what I had shared. And he instantly reached out to my grandmother like the same day. So I get home from school. I'm talking to my grandmother as she's cooking and there's a doorbell. So my grandmother gets the door. It's my best friend and her dad standing in the rain. And I remember my grandmother told me to go back in the house, which she never does. You know what I'm saying? Because like my best friend was with her dad. So like usually my grandmother would talk to him and I would kind of like chop it up with my best friend until it was time to go back in the house, until it was time for them to leave. But this time, I came behind my grandma, like, "Who is it?" And I see, my best friend and her dad, and she's like, "No, go back in the house." So now I'm like, fuck. I'm thinking about what he said to me that night. I'm thinking I'm going to get in trouble because nobody's going to believe me, about him forcing himself on me. And so like, I'm freaking out, like I'm sweating bullets. My brother's trying to talk to me and ask me questions like, "Who is that? What's going on?" I'm not saying anything. I'm pacing back and forth. I go out there again because my grandmother opens the garage door and calls me out. And she's in tears. My best friend is in tears and her. So everybody's crying and I'm trying to play stupid, like, what's going on? Why is everybody so sad? And then my grandmother like straight up asked me, she said, "Did he do these things to you?" Why didn't you say anything? I could have protected you. Is it, who is it? Who did it? So instead of answering the questions and allowing them to love me and care for me in this time, I blew up on my grandmother, on my best friend, on her dad. I yelled at my best friend. I told her we're not friends anymore. And then I asked them to leave before I ran in the house sobbing. So that was like pretty much confirmation right there. Like, yeah, it happened. Something happened. So immediately following that, they file a claim with the court. My teachers reach out that weekend to let them know. That was literally the year my life changed. Like, fifth grade year was my last year in my hometown, around all the kids I had grew up with. And once the court proceedings started, my mother came around to my grandmother's house, and she was like, I'm ready to take them back. I'm going to get this house in this new city. I'm married now, or I'm about to get married, because this is when around the time she met my stepdad, or they had already knew each other, but they were dating at this time. So she had to talk with my grandmother, and my grandmother asked us, like, would you prefer to stay in your hometown, or would you prefer to move with your mom? My brother was all for going with my mom. I felt like I wanted to stay because that's where all my friends were, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to make new friends because I was already weird. So I was like, no, I want to stay with grandma. You know what I'm saying? Because this is all I know. Ultimately, it wasn't really up to us anyway. My grandmother had already decided that we needed to go move back with our mother so that she could continue to raise us. So that's how I ended up moving from my hometown to a new town where, we were closer to our church. So my best friend is called to testify in the court as well. So now we're still seeing each other, you know what I'm saying? And I apologized to her for blowing up on her and everything like that. And she came to court, testified for me. The guy went to jail, not as long as I wanted, but he went to jail for it. And they enrolled me in like counseling classes, and our friendship kind of just like dwindled after that. I assured her that like her telling my grandmother wouldn't change our friendship, and that we were still cool, and that I didn't hate her really. I was just saying that because I was upset and I felt betrayed. But I think I scared her after that, because we used to call each other and stay on the phone all the time. Our phone calls got spread apart. And then when she found out I was moving, our friendship experienced more strain. And then my attitude changed. Like, once it was out that something had happened to me, my behavior was like completely out of character. And then I remember she invited me, like right before we moved, she invited me out with her and her other friends on a trip. So they go to this park and they cook out, they go on a nature walk, they just enjoy it outside before before we go back to school. It's something they get together with like other families of her friends, and they do every year. So it was like her, me, my best friend, and then there was another girl that we were both friends with who was there. We all went to the same school. We were all in different classes except for me and my best friend, but we knew of each other. So it was like me, my best friend, and two other girls that went on this trip, same age. And then like the rest was like her cousins and her brothers and her siblings and their friends. We get to the park and they start setting up to grill and things like that. We go on the nature walk that I talked about, but I am acting so weird. Like, I had a couple cans of pop and I was like, oh, I'm pop drunk. I was very much being a clown, to be honest. And it's just because I was really going through a lot. You know what I mean? I didn't feel like some of my family members believed me about what happened. So I was battling that. I was battling fear. I thought that, since he's still out for court, he can very much still come to the house, hurt me, my grandparents, my brother, my family. So I was just going through a lot, and I didn't know how to deal with it, only being like 9, 10 years old. So the first thing I thought of, this is my earliest memory of wanting to make an attempt on my life. So they're still trying to get me out of the rain. I'm standing at the edge of like where the grass meets the road. So I'm standing like right where the street meets the grass. And there's cars like coming back and forth, semis, everything. So finally, they're just like, forget it, because now they're getting wet, trying to get me to not get wet. They're like, forget it. You're probably going to get in trouble because I'm going to tell my dad to tell your grandma you're acting crazy. I see a semi coming down the road. And I was just like, fuck this. Like, it was so quick. That's how scary it was. It was so quick. I had a thought for like 2 seconds, like, fuck this, jump in front of the truck. I walked in the street as the semi is coming. And they didn't think that I was going to stay in the street. So I'm standing there and they're screaming like, Deanna, stop playing. Deanna, come on. Deanna, what are you doing? And, her parents are yelling in Spanish, like, tell that girl to get out of the street. Until finally, I think it was her dad and maybe her mom too. I don't know. Everybody basically that was close to me ran to the side of the street, grabbed me by my shirt and pulled me out of the street. I was this close to being hit by that semi. Like, I still remember it to this day. The semi couldn't have been more than 10 feet away from me, maybe 15. And even the driver is like honking because he sees me and he's like, what the hell? And they moved me like just in time. Like, they moved me and like maybe 5 seconds went by and the semi went past the spot I was standing in. And they immediately took me home after that. Like, they finished the cookout. They said their farewells. We started dropping everybody off, and I was the last one to get dropped off because me and my best friend lived the closest. And I just remember her saying, like, I'm never going to invite you out again. And that, that was like one of the last conversations. So that was the end of that. Once I moved, our friendship was like non-existent. MySpace came along and kind of like helped us stay in touch, but it just wasn't the same. I could tell that I had burnt that bridge. And then there was another instance. I don't know if this was around the same time that we had to go to court or if it was right before, but I remember telling her at school and one of the other girls that was with us on that trip, like, I have a crush on this guy. Don't tell him. What should I do? Should I write him a letter? Should I send you to tell him? Little kids do that. Like, go tell him that I like him and that I want to talk to him. So I did that, and lesson learned. Never send your friend to go talk to somebody for you, because she went and talked to him all right. But she made it seem like she liked him more than I liked him. And they ended up in a relationship off of the strength of me telling her to go tell him that I like him. So that's how that went. So the day I tell her, like, go tell him I like him, I send her with a letter. The next day I come to school and I'm like, so how did it go? You didn't report back. You didn't tell me anything. And he's walking past as I'm asking her this question. And he goes, hey, babe. And we both waved. He laughed at me, but winked at her. So she explains, like, yeah, he just liked me more, I guess. And that was like, what the fuck, bitch? So I don't know where my disconnection with women actually started, but as far as like trusting women as friends, that's around the time that I began to develop trust issues with women, because I was really close to this person. We shared everything with each other over the phone and in person, and we were just like super close. So it hurt me that she would like so easily betray me and like trade me in like that, backstab me, whatever you want to call it. So I just remember, like, after that happening, I blew up on her. I blew up on him too, which is like, why are you blowing up on him when you are the one that sent her? But so that's what they were trying to explain to me when I blew up on both of them. I was cussing them out, like heavy BPD rage, or I don't even know if I had it at that time, but that's pretty much how my raging looks now. I flip out, it's 0 to 100, literally 0 to 1,000, really. I flip out on everybody and then I run away so I can cry in peace. So that was our friendship. the end of it was that trip that we took, and I almost got hit by that truck. I just look back at that and I think like I could have had a friend for a lifetime. Like she had a lot of guts to, tell her dad about what I said in class and to bring him over to the house knowing that I would probably get upset with her and never be her friend again. Like I really wish our friendship would have lasted. I just have a lot of great memories with her, and she was a really good friend to me aside from the boyfriend thing. She never, she looked out for me and I would look out for her too. But maybe, that's just something like we weren't meant to be friends forever. She was definitely in my life for a season and a reason. Because if not for her, I probably never would have said anything. And that guy probably still would have been able to babysit us and come around and something worse could have happened. So that concludes my episode. This will be episode 6 of Manic Monday. Episode 7, I'm going to pick up where I left off in episode 5, which was when that guy I met at the dance was from the group home, and I'll leave from there. So thank y'all for tuning in, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.